Discover the dark secrets of faith, lust in the lives of the devout revealed at midnight. The clock strikes 12 in the darkened church, its eerie chime echoing through the stillness. Shadows dance across the walls, flickering in the candlelight like restless spirits. A hush blankets the pews, thick with tension, as a secret meeting unfolds, the kind of meeting that could shatter the fragile facade of piety. Curious glances dart across the room as the congregation gathers, each member cloaked not only in their Sunday best but also in unspoken desires. The whispers rise like smoke, curling around sinful intentions. A woman, eyes glinting under her veil, steals a glance towards the altar, her heart racing with forbidden thoughts. Around her, men fidget, their hands trembling, as if clutching unholy secrets. Each breath they take fills with the heavy weight of unfulfilled lust cloaked in devotion. Suddenly, a door creaks open in the back of the church. The shocked gasps ripple through the room, electric with anticipation. Who is this latecomer? Slowly, a figure steps into the light, a man with piercing eyes that hold a wealth of knowledge about the night's true nature. A wave of nervous energy sweeps through the crowd, the tension mounts as they realize the stakes of this midnight gathering. It's not just about worship anymore. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The man at the front begins to speak, his voice low and smooth like honey, drawing everyone closer. The air thickens, laced with tension, as he reveals secrets, each confession more shocking than the last. Hearts pound in chests as truths are unveiled, relationships threatened, and bonds tested. Every whispered confession ignites a spark, a flicker of truth that could consume them all. And just when it seems the night couldn't get any more intense, a loud crash interrupts the gathering. The doors swing wide open, cold wind whooshes in, causing the candles to flicker violently. The tension snaps like a tightrope underfoot as they all turn to see what has crashed into their sacred space. Is it the end of their dark secrets, or the beginning of something far more dangerous? The wind howled through the open doorway, carrying with it a chill that settled in the bones of everyone present. The figure that stumbled in was just as startling as the blast of cold air. Clad in tattered clothes, an unfamiliar face emerged, wild-eyed and gasping for breath, clutching something tightly against her chest. The congregation shifted nervously, whispers rising like a swell before a storm. Who is she? Someone murmured, their voice barely above a whisper. The latecomer staggered forward, her hair disheveled and eyes wide with fear. Help me, she gasped, her voice breaking. The man at the front, the one with the piercing gaze, stepped forward, his demeanor shifting from intrigue to concern. The air thickened as everyone held their breath, caught between curiosity and dread. What has happened? He asked, his tone steady yet laced with urgency. They're coming, she stammered, her hands shaking as she revealed a small, blood-stained object, a crumpled piece of parchment secured with a string. It fell from her grip, fluttering down to the ground. A collective gasp echoed through the church. What do you mean? The man's voice had changed, it was no longer smooth but edged with tension. Who is coming? The latecomer's eyes darted around the room, landing on the pews filled with anxious faces. Those who want the truth buried, she breathed. Those who will stop at nothing. Suddenly, the candles flickered again, casting long shadows. It felt as if the walls themselves were pressing in. We have to leave, she shouted, panic rising. No. A voice cried from the back. It was an older man, face pale under the sparse light. We need to hear what she has to say. Listen to me, the newcomer urged, her voice trembling. They already know we're here. They know your secrets. If you stay, you're putting yourselves in danger. A murmur spread through the crowd. The air crackled with tension, hearts racing as conflicting thoughts spun through their minds. What had they been summoned for? The deeper they probed their desires tonight, the thicker the stakes became. Were they really ready to uncover the truth about their lives and the web of deceit around them? What secrets? Someone shouted defiantly, an undercurrent of fear lacing their voice. With a furious energy, she snatched up the parchment from the floor, inhaling sharply as she read the words aloud. They're not just coming for you. They're coming for your very souls. The temperature in the church plummeted, and gasps filled the air as shadows loomed larger. The latecomer's revelation hung heavy, the weight of the truth crashing down on them, tightening their chests. Just then, another loud crash echoed from outside, the sound of shattering glass. The group jumped, eyes wide with terror as they exchanged frantic glances. They're here. The man at the front turned sharply, his piercing eyes scanning the room, searching for answers, or perhaps, a way out. The excitement of the revelations began to sour into dread. The meeting had taken a dark turn, and it felt like their secrets were drifting towards the abyss. Get to the back. He shouted, urgency amplifying his tone. Fear propelled the members of the congregation to action, scrambling toward the exits, but the doubts crept in, threatening to drag them back. What if this was their chance for liberation? What if confronting their desires could save them from the coming storm? As fear spread like wildfire among them, a shadow flickered at the edge of the doorway, dark and ominous, marking the boundary between their past sins and an uncertain future. Would they step into the light or retreat into the darkness? The weight of that choice hung heavily in the air, palpable and suffocating. And above the chaos, a single laughter echoed through the church, chilling everyone to the bone, a sound that promised terror. What had they unleashed, and would any of them survive the night? The doors of the church slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping them inside. Panic erupted like a shaken soda bottle, and screams intertwined with desperate pleas for clarity. The newcomer stood frozen, eyes darting from one terrified face to another. Please! She cried, her voice rising above the turmoil. We need to prepare. They'll come for us. They'll come for our. She hesitated, the gravity of her words weighing on her. Our souls. The man with the piercing gaze stepped closer to her, trying to maintain a firm grasp on the chaos swelling around them. What do you know? He pressed, his voice growing steadier despite the thunder outside. Who are they? They are the keepers of the shadows, she exclaimed, her breath hitching with every word. Those who guard their secrets, those who thrive in the dark. A low, chilling laugh echoed again from outside. It was low and smooth, wrapping around them like a noose. So naive, it mocked, sending shivers down spines. You have no idea what you've awakened. Everyone's eyes turned toward the door. Someone whispered, what do we do? The man attempted to rally the group, but fear divided them, each caught in their own personal nightmare. Look! The latecomer shouted, pointing toward the window. Shapes flickered outside, dark figures moving under the glow of the moonlight, casting elongated shadows across the stained glass. Each figure wore what looked like cloaks, their faces obscured, their intentions unclear. We need to be strong, he urged, voice firm. We need to stand together. This is not just about her secrets, it's about all of us. The congregation exchanged uneasy glances, uncertainty rippling through them like electric currents. More cracking sounds echoed from behind the church walls, like distant thunder creeping nearer. The air grew thick, embers of fear igniting. What if we fight? Someone proposed, their voice barely above a whisper, but the suggestion hung palpably in the air, fraught with desperation. Fight? The old man from the back scoffed. Against what? Figures? Shadows? Whatever they are coming for us. We have to leave. But if we run, we abandon ourselves to the darkness, the newcomer insisted, her eyes bright with fervor. Running won't save us. We must. The church shook as if the ground itself quaked beneath them, rattling the benches, sending dust wafting down from the beams overhead. The cacophony was interrupted only by the sound of chanting growing louder, weaving through the air like a sinister melody. "Can you hear them?" she asked, voice trembling now. "They are calling for our truths, for our vulnerabilities. They know everything." Fear took root, feeding on confusion and dread, twisting emotions until the air was taut with anxiety. The man took charge once more, heart pounding in his chest. "Everyone, stay together. We will face what comes. We are far more powerful united than divided." But just as he spoke, a figure slipped through the huddled crowd, shoving towards the exit. "I can't take this," the individual screamed, clutching at their head in torment. "I can't face the truth." Before anyone could react, the door flew open on its own, a gust of freezing wind tumbling in. It felt like a void, sucking the air from the room. The dark figures outside surged forward, their chant crescendoing into a thunderous roar. "Stay here!" the man shouted, desperately trying to grab the fleeing individual, but it was too late. They were enveloped by the shadows, disappearing into the night. The congregation's resolve began to crack. "We'll be next!" someone shrieked. "They'll take us!" Just then, the latecomer stepped to the door, a vision of resolve. "We have to confront them. We can't cower in the dark, we must fight for our souls." She raised the blood-stained parchment high, a beacon of hope against the encroaching shadows, but the air shifted, and an answering laughter rang out, this time closer, menacing and near. It promised destruction and chaos, echoing against the walls as if taunting their newfound resolve. Will they dare to face the darkness, or will they let it swallow them whole? The question hung in the air, crackling with an urgency that sent shivers down their spines. With every heartbeat, the shadows pressed closer, and the congregation braced themselves for the unknown that waited just outside. What would they discover when the night closed in fully, and would any light remain in the hearts of the devout? The walls vibrated with an intensity that matched the thrumming of their hearts. The shadows at the door loomed large, stretching like tendrils, hungry for the light that flickered weakly in the church. The latecomer clutched the parchment tightly, the bloodstains now a vivid reminder of a threat more potent than any ancient sin, the raw, terrifying reality they were facing. "Together!" she shouted, echoing the man's earlier sentiment as she turned to the fearful faces around her. "We can't give in. We're not just fighting for ourselves, but for every soul trapped in the darkness." But doubt flickered in the eyes of many. A woman with tear-streaked cheeks whispered, "What if we lose? What if they know our deepest fears, our darkest secrets?" The air around them felt electric, breaths came fast and shallow. The laughter outside slithered through the darkness, wrapping around them, every note sharp and chilling. "Secrets!" it sang, a cacophony entwined with malice. "Every soul is a story, every heart a truth they wish to hide. You cannot escape what you are, you cannot escape me." In a surge of courage, the man stepped forward, defiance etched into every line of his face. "Silence!" he yelled, voice cracking like thunder. "Whoever you are, you do not own us. We hold our truths, they do not hold us." The chanting swelled again, an inescapable tide. The figures outside shifted closer, shadows blending into one another, an almost liquid movement that sent fresh waves of dread crashing over the congregation. The story whispered in the corners of their hearts, a reminder that darkness does not ask for permission. "Your truths are your chains," the voice intoned, silky and smooth, caressing the air. "What will you do when those chains break? What will your souls reveal?" The atmosphere thickened with hesitation. The shadows outside were no longer just echoes, they had identity, intention. The man turned to the latecomer, urgency igniting his words. "That parchment. What does it say? Can it save us?" Her eyes flared with recognition. "There are names linked to promises made, debts owed. They're part of the ritual to shield souls from the shadow's grasp." "What ritual?" he pressed. The creaks of the church suddenly grew louder, a reminder that time was running out. They require an offering, a truth to break the darkness, she replied, holding the parchment like a fragile bird in her hands. A sacrifice made of light, it must be willingly given. The man's gaze swept across the room, filled with fear and uncertainty. Who among us would dare to bare their soul? To give away their truth? In the thick silence of the church, a tremor of voices began, an undercurrent of sharp breaths, uncertainty, and hope. I will. A voice shouted, breaking through the thick tension. A young man stepped forward, eyes alight with a determination that bordered on lunacy. I'll face what they want. I'll offer my truth. Gasps traveled through the congregation. The shadows outside roared louder, as if drawing strength from his bravery. But the latecomer's face twisted with worry. No, wait. You don't understand what they seek. They will use it against you. As the young man advanced toward the door, the darkness outside pulsed like a heartbeat, its anticipation palpable. The tension thickened. She grasped at him, desperation lacing her voice. Please. Don't walk into the unknown. His brow furrowed, uncertainty glazing his eyes. It's better than hiding, isn't it? The man, caught between fear and resolve, urged, don't sacrifice yourself. We can find another way. But the shadows cracked their icy claws against the barrier of the church, the rhythm of the chanting louder still, weaving through the visions of despair they held dear. As the door creaked ominously, cracking open, the congregation's fate hung delicately in the balance. Would they unravel their secrets to shield themselves from the darkness, or would they find strength in their vulnerability, standing as one against the demons of their past? Each second stretched like an eternity as they faced the door, hearts pounding in a tempest of fear, hope, and uncertainty. What fate awaited them when the door finally swung wide, and would anyone return to tell the tale? The door groaned open, revealing a void framed by night. Darkness surged in, billowing like smoke, thick and alive. The young man's foot hesitated just outside, sensing the churning energy that hung in the air. A collective gasp echoed through the church as the shadows embraced him. It was as if they had reached out, eager to devour him whole. Come back. The latecomer cried, her voice a desperate plea that barely pierced the rising tide of shadow. Her heart raced, pounding like a war drum, as every fiber of her being screamed for him to retreat. Yet, the young man's resolve shimmered like a beacon in the oppressive night. What will your truth be? The voice rang out from the outside, smooth and mocking, yet eerily enticing. What burdens will you lay down to face your fears, to save your friends? An electric silence gripped the congregation, pierced only by the flutter of anxious breaths. The shadows swirled, forming shapes that felt familiar yet twisted. Memories surfaced like ghosts, whispering of sins hidden deep. The woman with tear-streaked cheeks clutched her heart, fighting the familiar pull of her own buried truths. I want to let them take you. The man said, stepping forward, a primal fear igniting in his chest. He lunged, grasping the young man's arm, urgency pushing him closer to his own demise. Don't you see? They'll rip you apart. You may not return. A sinister laughter erupted from outside, reverberating off the walls. Return? Oh, he'll return with stories, secrets untold. Each soul carries a melody tonight, we shall compose a symphony. With a choked gasp, the latecomer dropped to her knees, clutching the parchment, praying for answers among ink and blood. A name stood out, pulsing like a living thing. As her fingers traced the letters, time screeched to a halt. Wait! She yelled, the last word bursting forth with a fierce desperation. The shadows paused, momentarily astounded. You seek a truth, a sacrifice, but it's a double-edged sword. She continued, her voice ringing clear, cutting through the darkness. Wide-eyed, the congregation focused on her, hope sparking once more. What if we each give a piece of ourselves? Our stories entwined in the light. Will that break the hold? The young man looked back, confusion mingling with newfound determination. What do you mean? If we share our truths willingly, they hold no power over us. They want to take our light, but together, we can shine brighter than their reach. The conviction in her voice churned with palpable energy, igniting bravery among them, but the shadows hissed, their laughter encroaching again, filling the church with darkness. Foolish souls! Your secrets are chains, and chains must be broken for the truth to ascend. The atmosphere thickened with fear and possibility as the congregation glanced at one another, embers of courage flickering in their souls. They took half a step back against the rising tide, a collective instinct swelling inside them. The young man slowly returned to the group, terror dawning on his face. "What now?" he asked, breathless. "Do we really think it'll work?" "It has to," the man replied, eyes resolute. "Our truths are what make us human. If we stand together, sharing our burdens, we become stronger. We become the light that shatters darkness." The latecomer rose, the parchment gripped tightly as she faced the door once more. "Let us share our fears. Let us face them, not hide." As a hesitant murmur of assent rippled through the congregation, eyes darted toward the shadows now pressing against the church walls, ready to seize the moment of vulnerability. Just as hope entwined with fear, a piercing shriek erupted in the night, the shadows writhing outside in a chaotic frenzy. "No! You will not defy us. The truth will be your undoing." The words reverberated inside the church like a funeral dirge, heightening the tension. Would their newfound unity suffice against the oncoming onslaught? As one by one they began to share, the room trembled with the weight of their truths, fluttering in the air like confetti coated in dark ink, but just as one voice took flight, echoing through the darkness, the shadows outside began to twist and writhe, their grasp on reality and truth blurring. What revelation awaited them as they stepped boldly into the night? Would they find liberation or meet their fall? Only the shadows knew, and the clock was ticking. The air crackled with urgency as the congregation braced themselves. Each heart thudded urgently against their chests, a call reverberating through their minds. The shadows quivered outside, responding to their vulnerability with an ominous hunger. One by one, they began to speak. A young woman's voice trembled as she shared her secret years of feeling unworthy, a yearning that gnawed at her spirit. The shadows recoiled, forming ghostly tendrils that twisted in discomfort. Each confession wove an invisible thread of light among them. Another voice chimed in. An older man revealed his regret, a decision made in haste that shattered lives. The darkness shrieked, fragments of shadow slinking back as light surged from his words. Hope flickered among them, yet, the laughter from the void echoed louder, disdainful of their efforts. "Your truths are mere whispers against the gale. Look how they falter." It taunted, the shadows writhing angrily as if swaying to some dark, hidden rhythm. "Don't listen," the latecomer urged, gathering her courage. "These shadows thrive on fear. They have no hold over us if we stay united." She stepped forward, heart racing, squeezing the parchment in her hand like an anchor. "I have something to share, too." As she spoke, images of her life unfurled in vivid detail, her struggles, her endless search for acceptance amidst disapproval. "I thought I was meant to hide," she confessed, her words unraveling the hold of darkness. The shadows hissed, tightening their grip but unable to silence her. "Shut her up. We shall consume you all." The voice outside raged, but there was desperation beneath the bravado. One by one, the truths blossomed. A man unveiled his hidden desires, admitting to a love deemed forbidden. The shadows flickered, stuttering under the weight of raw honesty. "Perfect. You reveal yourselves, you give strength to our might." The voice shrieked. The darkness swelled, clamoring for retribution. But the group stood firm, their camaraderie growing stronger with each revelation. As if drawn by an unseen force, they gathered closer. They formed a circle, hands clasped tightly, creating a beacon that expanded against the tide of darkness. Suddenly, a piercing wind rushed through the church, shrieking fury against their united front. "You think you're safe? The power of the truth can be blinding." The shadows lunged, clawing at the edges of their light. Together, we are greater than our fears. One voice roared. With the fervor of a fire ignited, they echoed their collective strength, together. In that moment, their truths intertwined, illuminating the church with a brilliance that spilled into the night. The shadows screeched, writhing as a torrent of light surged into the void, but just as they thought victory was within their grasp, a crack split the air. Fools! The darkness bellowed, the cycle has merely begun. With a guttural roar, the shadows turned monstrous, shapes knitting together in a swirling mass of pure malice. Something ancient, something mightier than they had realized stirred beneath their feet, threatening to break loose. They could feel the ground shuddering, a tremor of impending doom as a dark figure began to unfurl in the chaos. The congregation, trembling but resolute, stood their ground. What next? Someone breathed, eyes wide with fear, as a new specter loomed before them. The young man exchanged glances with the latecomer, determination solidifying the bond they had formed. We stand tall. We face it together. But with each heartbeat, the truth resonated deeper. The shadows weren't just a force of darkness, they were manifestations of their deepest fears. What would they discover within themselves, and would their lighting act be enough to save them? As the towering figure loomed closer, a chilling question hung in the air: would the truth be the key or the end of them all? The shadows roared, a cacophony of primal rage mixed with a chilling desperation. It twisted, contorting into a shape both terrible and awe-inspiring, curved claws reaching outward, a gaping maw that echoed with hunger. The congregation stood frozen, their collective heartbeats a thunderous reminder of their supplication before this tide of darkness. Face your sins, the entity bellowed, its voice like nails on a chalkboard, stretching across the void. The flickering light around them dimmed, as if the very air was dampened by their fears. The young woman squeezed her friend's hand, heart racing. The latecomer took a single step forward. We'll face them together. The power we spoke of, it's still here. Foolish mortals. The entity hissed, another knot of shadow weaving into its form. Your confessions are mere shadows of the truth. A sickening knot of dread churned in the young man's stomach. He knew the shadows had whispered their fears even before they had spoken them. What's hidden can destroy you, he murmured, the weight of unvoiced thoughts pressing against him. Was it finally time to confront his own darkness? The towering figure seemed to sense this hesitation, budding shadows flicking like flames as they drew closer. What will you uncover? Deepest desires? Crippling shame? Let the air taste your secrets. But then a voice broke through. It belonged to the older man, who had already unveiled his regret. We are not defined by our flaws. We are defined by how we rise above them. As if ignited by that spark, other voices joined in, their spirit fed by fire. I admit my greed. I have felt envy. I longed for power. Each confession filled the air with vibrations of solidarity, distending the shadows around them, sending flecks of darkness spiraling away. Pathetic. The creature roared, but there was uncertainty in its tone, a tremor that echoed the shift pulsing within the congregation. They were standing together, shoulder to shoulder, bare and raw under the threat of consumed truths. The energy among them was palpable, electric. We will not be dismissed. We are brave. We are humans. The young woman exclaimed, her voice resolute. Brave enough to show vulnerability? The shadows twisted, the darkness flickering uncertainly. Tell me more, then. Show me the filth that clings to your souls. A strange heat settled in the air, charged with anticipation. The latecomer swallowed hard, fear clawing at her throat, but she refused to back down. We've been burdened by shame. But here, amongst each other, we learned acceptance. All at once, the rawness of emotions, the pain, love, fear, and acceptance merged into a harmonious swell, creating a pulse of courage. The walls of the church shook, the once ominous darkness flickering against such brightness, but just as hope began to blossom, the creature unleashed a bone-shattering laugh. You think you can defeat me with your paltry truths? I will reveal your ultimate shame, one that no amount of light can extinguish. As the shadows coiled tighter, the young man felt weakness sink into his bones. What was the deepest shame they had yet to unveil? Would the pain buried beneath their bravado consume them? He glanced at the latecomer, saw the desperation in her eyes, and knew some truths were still left unspoken. Would they uncover their darkest fears and walk unscathed into the light, or would that very light lead them to their final ruin? With the darkness clinging closer, the question felt not just imminent, but inevitable: what horrors does the truth truly reveal? The shadows swirled and danced, as if alive, crawling closer to the edge of the light. The atmosphere thickened, hanging like a damp shroud, pressing in on them with a weight that seemed almost sentient. The latecomer's gaze darted from face to face, seeking strength among her peers, but panic gnawed at her insides. What could be worse than what we've shared? She whispered, her voice a tremor barely above the eerie silence. A sinister chuckle reverberated through the air, sending chills racing down their spines. Deeper, much deeper, I sense the secrets that even your bravest souls dare not speak. The entity's laughter echoed, a haunting melody of despair. The young man took a breath, steeling himself against the urge to run. No, we can't let it intimidate us. We have the power of truth on our side. His voice was firm, but inside, his heart trembled. Could they really face what lay hidden? Power such a sweet temptation, the entity sneered, its form twisting and folding in on itself, taunting them. What if I revealed your hidden desires? Those midnight whispers and guilty pleasures that keep you awake at night? Would you still stand proud? The congregation shivered at the thought, faces paling, some turning away in silent denial. But the older man stepped forward, defiance brimming in his eyes. No. You will not twist us with your torment. We are more than our failures. We are human. His declaration sparked a flicker of resolve in the others. The fear was still there, deep and dark, but now it simmered beneath the surface, ready to be confronted. The young woman took a step closer to the front, her breath quickening. We all have sins we're ashamed of. But in this moment, I'm willing to share, to truly expose my soul. I have longed for affection in the wrong places. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Heads turned, eyes wide, caught off guard by her willingness to lay bare such vulnerability. The latecomer felt her heart swell and sink at once. Was that the secret they needed, or would the shadow twist it into something monstrous? More. More. The entity urged, its insatiable hunger palpable. What else lies beneath the facade of piety? What wicked desires brew in your hearts? I crave the touch of someone who doesn't belong to me, a voice spoke up from the back, trembling but resolute. I sought solace in the arms of another, even while standing at the altar. The reaction was immediate, an electric ripple through the congregation, some looked shocked, others whispered condoning murmurs. The shadows recoiled as if burnt by the raw honesty, fueled by this newfound courage. Others confessed as well, I desired wealth over friendship. I wanted fame, no matter the cost. Each admission stung, but each carried with it a flicker of liberation. Yet the shadows grew restless. This is sparking something delicious, the entity crooned, almost gleeful. But wait, what do I sense? A darkness still lurking, a truth that lingers in shadows untold. The air crackled, tension spiraling. What is it? What more do you want? The young man felt the panic clawing at him. They had laid bare their souls, hadn't they? The shadows inched closer, wrapping around him like icy fingers. You have one more secret, one that entwines your fates together. Who will unveil this together? The suffocating silence stretched. All eyes fell upon the group, a moment fraught with dread. What truth connected them that they dared not speak? Could it be that the dreadful culmination of their shared fears bound them more than they realized? And then a whisper escaped the latecomer's lips, the truth held us captive. What if we've been living a lie together? With that utterance, the ground beneath them trembled, darkness threatening to swallow them whole. What would emerge from the depths of those unspoken secrets? As they braced against the shadows, the atmosphere crackled with impending revelation. The truth loomed, darker and more terrifying than they had ever imagined. What horror awaited them within this silence? The shadows tightened their grip, pulsing like the beating of a dreadful heart. The young man's mouth went dry, his breath hitching as the weight of their hidden truths hung in the air. Is it about the night we gathered before? He stammered, the words barely escaping his lips. The night they found the body. The mention of that terrible event sent shivers down everyone's spine. Ah, yes, the entity's voice hissed, slithering through the tension. There's a thread that ties you all to that fatal evening. A strand woven with lies, betrayals, and unconfessed desires. Gasps rippled through the group. The latecomer felt cold sweat trickle down her back. Had they all been there that night? Had they watched as it unfolded, silent and complicit? Speak. The older man's shout cracked through the nightmare. Do not cower in fear. If we've lived a lie, we must confront it. But what if confronting it means we destroy each other? A trembling voice pierced the charged atmosphere. The entity laughed again, a sound like broken glass. Let us see how tenderly your hearts can break. Who among you bears the greatest guilt? It's time to lay bare your souls once and for all. Stop. The young woman shouted, her hands trembling. If this is about us, then I'll go first. Everyone turned to her, hope and panic battling in their eyes. I was supposed to help that night, she stuttered, her palms slick against each other. I didn't, though. I stood by as it happened. I could have saved them, but I turned away. I was more afraid of the truth than I was of losing someone. The atmosphere crackled, the shadows hissing with approval. Something released between them, a whisper of relief mixed with horror. Now, that's enticing, the entity crooned, swirling with delight. Who else will step into the light? The air churned thick. The latecomer's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the shadows still crawling around her feet, creeping up her legs as if they had a life all their own. I know. The young man's voice cut through her thoughts. You don't have to look at what you just did, you opened the door. But are you prepared for what might rush through? Tension hung heavy as they faced each other, unspoken regrets crackling like static. It felt almost wrong to ponder the horrors of that night, yet here they were united in fear, guilt, and dread. There's something here, the older man interjected. Something powerful. Our silence has already cost us dearly. Murder can't be forgotten, echoed another voice, the weight of their history crashing down like thunder. We need to confess, not only for ourselves but for the one who lost everything. The entity coiled around them, tightening its grip, muttering praises over their collective guilt. What bond connects you? How deep does your loyalty run, or is it betrayal that weaves you to one another? The shadows whispered, tugging at the edges of memories long buried. The latecomer's mind swirled like a tempest. Could the revelation of their darkest secret free them? Or would it forge an iron bond that dragged them deeper into despair? Tell us. She finally screamed, feeling her own strength falter. What happens if we don't? The silence that followed was deafening. They waited, breathless, as the shadows pulsed in rhythm with their racing hearts. The entity seemed to dissolve, drawing back for one chilling moment. Denial is a kind of death, it hissed. Face the truth, or be forever trapped in this nightmare. A gasp erupted from someone in the back. What if it's too late? Darkness coiled like a serpent, poised to strike. The inevitable seemed to loom over them, and one question cut through the fear: were they truly ready to face their darkest hour? Just then, a tremor rocked the ground, and with it came an unsettling hum. Something was stirring in the darkness, awakening from a long slumber, and it would not rest until all secrets were unearthed. Would they dare dig deep enough to find the truth before it consumed them? The darkness pulsed in the church, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Shadows stretched out, twisting, writhing, eager to ensnare any heart too weak to face its own truths. The congregation huddled together, a mix of fear and resolve brewing in the charged atmosphere. They knew the stake. Some had been in the presence of death, and that guilt now festered within them, threatening to break free like a wild beast. With tears pooling in her eyes, the latecomer stood firm, clutching the blood-stained parchment. "We can't let it consume us. We're here now, let us finish this." Her voice rang clear, a lifeline in the storm. "Then let us do it." The young woman shouted, stepping forward. "I was too afraid to admit I saw what happened. I was there, and I let fear chain me to my silence." The darkness recoiled, shrieking in pain as though her confession struck a chord of light. But the entity only laughed, a low, sinister sound. "A minor scratch, my dear. Do you think courage can shield you from the truth? What did you really hide?" "Enough." The older man yelled back, stepping beside her, voice steady. "We all hid from the truth that night. But our silence has trapped us. We cannot bear these shadows any longer." Around the room, hearts raced. The entity pulsed and churned, sensing their bubbling fear but also the growing courage that entwined them. The young man felt strength rising within him. "Then I'll join you," he declared. "I was complicit. We all let it happen. Our inaction was our sin, too. No. Don't fall for the trick." Someone cried in despair. But the fire had spread, embers igniting in every chest. One by one, confessions poured forth, raw and unrestrained. "I was scared. I was jealous. I wished for it to happen." Each truth spat into the void, and each echoed with power. The shadows hissed, seething at the spilling of their secrets. The swirling mass condensed, shifting toward a more dreadful shape, but the congregation stood tighter, heartbeats sinking. Their collective pain, regret, and fear began to transform. "Together we reveal our sins, together we will rise," the young woman urged, her voice breaking but filled with passion. Then, joining hands with the latecomer and everyone else around her, they formed a circle. "Share it all." The shadows screeched, swirling, howling in rage as their defenses crumbled. "You fools! Your fragility fueled my strength." The entity roared. "You will bear the weight of those truths until the end of days." But they pushed back, undeterred. "The truth is power." The latecomer shouted, defiance radiating from her. "We will own our narratives. Nothing can extinguish the light if we face it together." With that, she took a deep breath and declared, "I yearned for his affection, stole glances I shouldn't have. I carried that shame alone." The darkness recoiled, slipping away instinctively, as if pushed back by light. "Now it's my turn." A trembling voice from inside the circle echoed, shaking the walls with conviction. The confessions came in a cascade, a symphony of vulnerability. "I craved revenge. I wanted to see him fall." Another voice chimed in, and with each story shared, they carved a path toward liberation. The darkness writhed, shaking with fury as the light consumed their pain, pushing against its oppressive weight. In that moment of unity, the deep-rooted truths began mingling together, forming an explosion of radiant warmth, washing over them, dispelling shadows inching towards the altar. Thunder roared outside, lightning flashing like a beacon of hope as the church windows glowed, illuminating the night. The congregation stood firm, their power swelling as their truths knitted their fates closer. They couldn't erase the past, but they could reshape their future. The latecomer raised her voice, firm and unwavering, "We are more than our fears. Together, we cannot be broken." With a final surge, the lights blazed bright, and the shadows screeched one last angry cry, disintegrating into the night. The oppressive weight lifted, the air cleared, and peace wrapped around them like a warm embrace as dawn broke outside. They stood in the remnants of their struggle, hearts pounding but not with fear this time, with solidarity. They had faced their darkest hours and emerged not as shadows, but as warriors of truth. The latecomer turned to her friends. "This isn't the end. We have to support one another. We have to stand for what is right." Around them, heads nodded. They placed their hands together in a circle, each person committing to carry the weight of their truths, not alone, but together, and just as the first light broke through the stained glass, illuminating every corner of the sacred space, the entity dissolved completely, leaving only whispers of what once was. With a deep breath and a shared gaze, they began to walk out, side by side, into the brightening world, ready to carve their new paths as bearers of light and truth, but this bright moment sparked behind them a lingering awareness: darkness never truly sleeps. So as you, the viewer, witness their story come to an end, consider the journey of your own truths. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share. Smash that like button now to support the algorithm and let us spread these stories. And flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories. Who knows what other secrets we'll uncover together. Remember, true fans show their support.